Listen up, you sick, broke woman. I've already filed the divorce papers. This house, everything in it, and the luxury car will be mine. When this is all over, I'm marrying my girlfriend. My husband yelled at me, announced our divorce, and kicked me out while I was gravely ill. He took everything from me, thinking he had won it all. He thought he had won. He was dead wrong. A few days later, he would be the one calling me, crying. Before the story begins, please leave a comment letting us know what part of the country you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the channel can keep growing and bring you more interesting stories. Caroline lay in the sprawling king-sized bed that felt cold, but her entire body was burning like fire. The thin nightgown she usually wore around the house was soaked with sweat from her temples. Her throat was dry and sore, every breath she took was painful. For 2 days, she had been confined to bed, utterly helpless. This morning, she had asked her husband, Jason, to buy her some fever reducers and antibiotics, but it was now evening, and Jason had not returned. The large house was silent. Far too silent. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room, as if counting down what little patience she had left. Caroline tried to reach for the glass of water on the nightstand, but her hands trembled violently. The glass slipped from her grasp and fell onto the thick carpet, spilling the remaining water. Caroline could do nothing but close her eyes, enduring the despair. Jason had changed over the last year. Ever since her husband was promoted to department head at his company, his attitude had become arrogant. He often came home late at night and would frequently blame Caroline for anything and everything. The breaking point was 3 months ago, when Caroline began to cough frequently and tire easily. Jason never showed any compassion. On the contrary, he called her a sickly woman. He seemed to have forgotten that Caroline was the wife who had been with him since they had nothing, since they lived in a small rental apartment. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the silence. Caroline felt a small sense of relief. Finally, Jason was back. He must have brought the medicine. Caroline tried to sit up, leaning her aching back against the headboard. She waited for Jason to open the door and bring her the medication. The front door slammed shut, followed by heavy, hurried footsteps. They were not the steps of someone who was worried, they were the steps of someone angry. The bedroom door burst open, revealing Jason's towering figure. He was still wearing his crisp dress shirt. His hair was neatly styled, and his face was handsome, but the look he gave Caroline was filled with hatred. There was no pharmacy bag in his hands. What he held was a thick manila folder. Jason, Caroline's voice was hoarse and weak. My medicine, my head hurts so much, honey, I have a fever. Jason laughed. A jarring, painful laugh. Medicine, I brought something much better than medicine. This is a cure for both of us. A medicine that will cure my life, Jason said. He walked over and tossed the manila folder onto the blanket covering Caroline's legs. Caroline flinched, staring at the folder in confusion. What is this, honey? Open it, if you don't want to die of curiosity, Jason replied, his tone cold and sharp. With what little strength she had, Caroline picked up the folder. Her trembling fingers struggled to open the clasp. She pulled out several sheets of paper. On the top line, she read the words, divorce petition. Caroline's world seemed to stop. She couldn't breathe. The heat she felt vanished, as if replaced by a chill that seeped into her bones. She looked up at Jason, searching her husband's eyes for the slightest hint of doubt, but all she found was satisfaction. Divorce, Caroline whispered in disbelief. Why are you surprised? Jason scoffed. He sat on the edge of the bed but kept his distance, as if Caroline disgusted him. Listen, you sick broke woman, do you think I want to spend the rest of my life taking care of a useless person like you? I've arranged everything, I've filed the divorce papers. Jason stood up again, and paced the room as if giving a speech. I'm sick of it, sick of watching you cough every day, sick of seeing you lying in bed with no energy. You're a burden on my life. Honey, what did I do wrong? Caroline tried to say, but tears began to well up in her eyes. Your fault is being poor, you can't give me anything. Jason gestured around the luxurious room. Look at all this house, all this expensive furniture, the luxury car and the garage, it's all going to be mine. I'm the one who worked hard for all this, it's all in my name. Caroline said nothing. Behind her gaze was something Jason couldn't read. Jason thought. Caroline's silence was a sign of defeat. Are you listening to me? You're not getting a single dime. Division of assets, don't even dream of it. You brought nothing into this house and you'll take nothing with you when you leave. Then Jason said the words that shattered what was left of Caroline's heart. When this is over, he said, his face lighting up, I'm going to marry my girlfriend Jessica. She's much healthier, much more beautiful, and most importantly, she understands my position as a successful man. Unlike you, Caroline closed her eyes. So, there was another woman. The name was unfamiliar, but the pain was all too real. I don't want to see your face in this house tomorrow morning, Jason added cruelly. I'm giving you until dawn. Get out of this house tomorrow morning. Don't take anything but the clothes on your sick body. Jason looked at Caroline, who was now crying silently. Hot tears streamed down her pale cheeks. Crying won't change anything. The papers are already filed, the process will be quick. Then Jason turned and straightened his shirt. I'm going to sleep at Jessica's loft tonight. I don't want to be under the same roof as you. Tomorrow morning, I'll send someone to make sure you're gone. Caroline wanted to scream, to curse him, but all her strength was gone. She could only watch her husband's back disappear through the door. The bedroom door slammed shut. Then came the slam of the front door. A moment later, the roar of Jason's car engine faded as he left the driveway. Caroline was alone. Gravely ill, divorced, and evicted. She cried her heart out. The pain in her heart was far worse than the fever burning her body. She cried for her shattered marriage and for the cruel betrayal. After crying for 15 minutes, Caroline stopped. She gasped for air, she wiped her tears away fiercely. Amidst the pain, something else emerged, something cold, hard, and calculating. Her previously pale face was now hardened. She fumbled under her pillow. It wasn't the pillow she usually used, it was an extra one she always kept there. Her fingers touched a hard, thin object. She pulled it out. It was a state-of-the-art smartphone, far more sophisticated than the old phone she kept on her nightstand. That phone was her only secret, an object Jason didn't even know existed. The phone had no lock pattern, it opened with her fingerprint. The screen lit up, showing a blank wallpaper. There were no social media apps, only encrypted business applications. Caroline opened a single contact saved under the name Director Patricia Evans. She pressed the call button, her heart pounded, not from her illness, but from the rage that was beginning to build. The call connected on the first ring. A calm, professional woman's voice came through. Good evening, MRS. Caroline. You're calling at this hour. Are you all right? I was told you weren't feeling well. Caroline took a deep breath, trying to steady her trembling voice. Director Evans, she said, her voice hoarse but sounding extremely cold. Contingency plan, activate it. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then Director Evans's voice turned serious. Understood, ma'am. What happened? I've been kicked out, Caroline said. Jason has divorced me. He thinks I'm a useless, sick, poor woman. My God, the audacity of Mr. Jason, Director Evans hissed. Director, I'm ill. My fever is very high. I need a medical evacuation. I don't want to go to a regular hospital. Come to the house and pick me up. Bring the private medical team from the Richmond Clinic. No sirens. Do it quietly. I don't want anyone to know. Understood, ma'am. The VIP medical team will be there in 30 minutes. I will come to get you myself. Can you hold on? Caroline looked at the divorce papers on the blanket. With her remaining strength, she crumpled the paper in her fist. I have to hold on, Director. The game has just begun. She hung up. Her body still shivered from the fever, but her eyes now gleamed with a sharp light in the dim room. Jason had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had just kicked out his wife. He didn't know he had just kicked out the owner of Caroline Holdings, a global corporation with a monthly net profit of $1.5 million. Caroline waited in suffocating silence. Every tick of the clock sounded like a hammer blow. She clutched her secret phone tightly. Her mind was in turmoil. She feared Jason might suddenly return. She feared the medical team would be delayed. Her body alternated between shivering chills and burning heat. Exactly 25 minutes later, her phone vibrated silently. It was a text from Director Evans. "We have arrived. The door is unlocked. The team is entering." Caroline exhaled in relief. She had anticipated that Jason wouldn't lock the door. The man was too arrogant to think his nearly dead wife could do anything. With her remaining strength, Caroline pushed the blanket aside. Her feet touched the cold carpeted floor. Her head spun violently. She nearly fell but steadied herself against the bedpost. She had to leave. With trembling hands, she took a long coat hanging behind the door and put it on. She didn't want to leave this house in a state of indignity. She would not let Jason strip her of her dignity. The bedroom door opened silently. Caroline startled for a moment, but then saw two people in dark uniforms. They weren't the conspicuous white uniforms of nurses. They moved quickly and quietly. Behind them appeared Director Evans, a woman in her late 50s with a firm but kind face, dressed in a neat pantsuit. Her face showed deep concern when she saw Caroline's condition. "MRS. Caroline," Director Evans whispered. "I'm ready, Director," Caroline replied weakly. "Get Mrs. Caroline onto the portable stretcher," Director Evans ordered the medical team. The team immediately unfolded a collapsible stretcher. They helped Caroline lie down with extreme care. "Ma'am, we'll give you a temporary fever reducer to make you more comfortable during the transport," one of the medical team members said. Caroline just nodded. She felt a slight prick in her arm and soon a cooling sensation spread through her. As they lifted her, Caroline took one last look at the bedroom ceiling, the room she had decorated herself, the room that had been a silent witness to Jason's changing attitude. They carried her out of the room and through the luxurious living room. Caroline's gaze fell on the large wedding photo hanging on the wall, a picture of her and Jason smiling happily. The Jason of the past that she knew, the Jason who was gentle and loving. Now, that photo seemed like a mockery. "Leave everything, don't take anything," Caroline whispered. "Of course, ma'am, we don't need anything from here," Director Evans replied firmly. They went out the front door. In the driveway, there was no flashy ambulance. What was parked there was a black Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van that looked like a presidential escort vehicle. The side door slid open, revealing an interior that was a fully equipped VIP emergency medical space. Meanwhile, in a luxury downtown loft, Jason was laughing heartily. He poured a soda into a tall glass for Jessica, a beautiful young woman in a thin nightgown. "So, tomorrow we'll be the official owners of that big house, honey," Jessica asked flirtatiously. "Of course, I kicked her out. That sickly woman won't dare to fight back. She has nothing. Tomorrow, I'll have all the locks changed, and the day after, we can start remodeling the bedroom," Jason said, wrapping his arm around Jessica. "How exciting! Finally, all of this will be ours," Jessica exclaimed. Jason raised his glass. "To our new life," he toasted. His old cell phone lay on the table in silent mode. He didn't want to be disturbed by any calls from that sick woman. Inside the medical vehicle gliding smoothly through the night, Caroline's condition was being managed. A doctor waiting inside the vehicle immediately started an NC drip. "Temperature is 105 degrees. A severe infection, but we're on it. We need to get her to the hospital for intensive care quickly," the doctor said. Director Evans sat in a chair beside Caroline's bed, watching her pale face with a worried expression. "Ma'am, you must be strong. We have prepared everything at the Ridgemont Clinic." Caroline closed her eyes. The fever reducer was beginning to work, easing the dizziness. Her thoughts drifted to the past. 5 years ago. At the beginning of this whole secret, Jason had just been fired from his first job. He was depressed for months. Caroline, who was just a housewife then, tried to comfort him. Jason became sensitive about money. He forbade Caroline from working, a matter of pride. "Your job is to be at home. I'll make the money," he would say, despite being unemployed. But Caroline, who secretly held a degree in pharmaceutical science, felt frustrated. She had so many ideas. In her free time, between chores, she began experimenting in the kitchen, not cooking, but formulating skincare products with organic herbal ingredients. She remembered old recipes passed down from her grandmother. She used all her personal savings to buy high-quality raw materials. After months of testing, she successfully created a facial serum and a brightening cream with amazing effects. She tested it on herself, and the results were incredible. Jason, busy with his job search, paid no attention. He just knew his wife was busy playing in the kitchen. Caroline gathered her courage. She opened a small online store. At first, she only sold to acquaintances, but her products became famous through word of mouth. Orders soared. It was around that time that Jason got a new job. His salary was quite good. He started to become arrogant. He often saw Caroline busy late at night on her old phone, responding to customer orders. "I give you money, and you're still glued to that phone. It's like you have nothing to do," Jason yelled one night. Caroline just stayed silent. She had just closed a sale worth $30,000 that night. The turning point was when she met director Patricia Evans at a seminar for women entrepreneurs. Caroline attended as a participant. Director Evans was the guest speaker. Director Evans was a former senior executive of a multinational corporation who had taken early retirement. Caroline worked up the courage to meet Director Evans after the event. She showed her the products and a handwritten business proposal. Director Evans was amazed by Caroline's potential. "This product is excellent, Miss Caroline, and your business strategy is very solid," Director Evans had said at the time. Long story short, Director Evans agreed to join not as an investor, but as a partner. Director Evans wanted to get back to work and saw Caroline's vision. They founded Caroline Holdings, or CH. Caroline was the owner and the mastermind behind all the products. Director Evans was the CEO, the face of the company. Caroline asked for one thing, that her name not appear anywhere. She wanted to remain Jason's ordinary wife. Ironically, with the help of Director Evans's network, she hoped that Jason, being successful in his new job, would become a better husband. But Caroline was wrong. The more successful Jason became, the more arrogant he grew. CH, on the other hand, grew explosively. From skincare, they expanded into luxury fashion. The high-end clothing and accessories, designed by Caroline, became wildly popular in national and international markets, New York, Paris, Shanghai, and even Tokyo. A monthly net profit of $1.5 million was a conservative figure. That was Caroline's personal net income. The company's revenue was tens of times larger. Caroline kept all this wealth well hidden. She continued to live simply. Even when Jason wanted to buy the luxury house and the sports car, he had to take out a large loan from the bank. Jason boasted that he got the loan because of his excellent work performance. Jason didn't know that his business loan, which was on the verge of default a year ago, had been secretly bought out in its entirety by an investment firm, and that firm was a subsidiary of CH. The luxury house and the sports car he was so proud of were the collateral for that loan. Legally, they no longer belonged to the bank, but to CH, that is, to Caroline. Caroline opened her eyes. The medical vehicle was now entering the VIP area of the hospital. "Director," Caroline called. Her voice was still weak, but her gaze was as sharp as steel. "Yes, MRS. Caroline," Director Evans leaned in. Jason took the house and the car. He said they were all his, that they were in his name. Director Evans smiled faintly. A meaningful smile. He forgot, "Ma'am, who paid off his business loan from Metropolitan Trust Bank a year ago, when he was about to declare bankruptcy." He forgot, Caroline continued, that the collateral for that loan was the very house and luxury car he brags about every day. And he certainly doesn't know, Director Evans added, that the investment firm that bought his entire debt from the bank is Caroline Holdings. There was a moment of silence. The doctor and nurse inside the vehicle professionally pretended not to hear the secret conversation. Director Evans, Caroline said. Initiate the asset recovery procedure. When should I start, ma'am? Caroline watched the streetlights pass by the window. He kicked me out tonight. He thinks I'll be a homeless person tomorrow morning. I want to let him enjoy his victory with that woman. Give him 3 days to savor his win. Director Evans nodded. 3 days. Let's consider it the last free rent he's providing. After 3 days, our legal team will move. Exactly on the 3rd day, we will reclaim everything that is rightfully yours, ma'am. Good. Caroline closed her eyes again. Now, focus on getting me well. I need to be healthy to see his shattered face. The medical vehicle stopped at a private lobby. A team of specialist doctors was already waiting. Caroline was moved to a presidential treatment suite. Far away, Jason slept soundly in Jessica's arms, dreaming of his beautiful new life, completely unaware that his real life would end in 3 days. The victory was too sweet for Jason. He woke up in Jessica's luxurious loft. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows, bathing the room in golden light. Jessica was still asleep beside him, clutching his arm tightly. Jason looked at her pretty face and smiled with satisfaction. He had done it. He had gotten rid of the burden in his life. That sick woman, Caroline. He imagined that by now, Caroline would be crying at a bus station, trying to get back to her parents' poor home. Jason chuckled. Not his problem anymore. His new, bright life would start today. Good morning, honey, came Jessica's husky, flirtatious voice. She opened her eyes. What time is it? Is that woman gone from our house yet? She's definitely gone, he replied confidently. I told her to be out before dawn. She has no choice. No money, no power. She's just a weak woman who lived off me. Jessica beamed from ear to ear. She got out of bed, her silk nightgown slipping to reveal her shoulders. Great, I can't wait to move in. This loft is nice, but that house is a palace, and I'll be the queen. Of course, honey, anything for you, Jason said. Come on, get ready. We'll have breakfast at our new house today. I'll tell the regular cleaning lady to throw out all of Caroline's leftover things. I don't want a single trace of her left. An hour later, Jason's luxury sports car pulled smoothly into the driveway of the large house. Jason got out, wearing sunglasses like a king. Jessica walked arrogantly on his arm. Jason unlocked the front door. Welcome to our palace, my queen, he said. They stepped inside. It was strange. The house was very quiet but also very clean. Too clean. Jason had expected Caroline to leave a mess, throwing things around or crying, but it wasn't so. Jason went to the bedroom and opened the door. His heart beat a little faster. He found the room incredibly neat. The bed where Caroline had been lying in pain yesterday was now perfectly made with pristine white sheets and pillowcases. There was no sign of medicine or the broken water glass. Even the carpet by the bed, where Caroline had dropped the glass, looked dry and perfectly clean. She must have cleaned up, Jason muttered, puzzled. Glad she behaved, Jessica retorted from behind. At least she was useful one last time. Jason felt a little uneasy. It was strange. How could Caroline, with a high fever, have tidied this room so impeccably, and where were the dirty sheets? He checked the closet. Caroline's modest clothes, her long dresses and scarves, were gone. The vanity drawers were also empty. She's really gone, Jason said, finally feeling relieved. He shook off the unease. Maybe she had called a taxi and taken a small suitcase. Better this way. A clean break. Of course it's clean. Now let's measure this room, Jessica exclaimed excitedly. I want to change this bed. It's too old-fashioned. I want a round bed with a canopy. And these walls need to be repainted. I want a gold color. Jessica ran around the house, her sharp voice breaking the silence. She pointed at the furniture. This sofa is ugly. Change it. This painting is tacky. Throw it away. This kitchen needs a complete remodel. I want an imported Italian kitchen set. Jason just smiled. Yes, honey. I'll change everything. Anything for you. Tonight, we'll celebrate. I'll invite our closest friends. I'll order the most luxurious catering in the city. Jason took out his phone and called his usual premium catering service. He ordered the expensive menus, imported Wagyu beef, fresh seafood platters, and premium European wines. Understood, Mr. Jason. The total order is $2,000. Following procedure, we require a 50% deposit now, said the catering staff over the phone. Of course, send me the invoice. I'll pay with my primary credit card, Jason said arrogantly. He sat on the sofa Jessica hated and opened his banking app. He tried to pay the $1,000 catering deposit, entered his credit card number, and pressed the pay button. The phone processed for a moment. Then a red notification appeared on the screen. Transaction denied. Jason frowned. Strange. This card's limit was still in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Probably a signal issue, he muttered. He tried again. Transaction denied. Honey, what's taking so long? Jessica asked, busy taking selfies in the living room. Just a moment, sweetie. I think the bank's network is having issues, Jason tried to sound calm. He was starting to feel a bit embarrassed. He tried another credit card from the same bank. Declined. A cold sweat began to form on his temples. This couldn't be happening. He was a VIP client. Why were his cards being declined? He tried his debit card. Declined. Insufficient funds. Jason's eyes widened. Insufficient funds, impossible. His salary had just come in 3 days ago. He quickly closed the payment app and opened his main mobile banking app. His heart was pounding. He entered his password, the screen loaded, and then a message appeared. Access blocked. Please contact your nearest branch. Jason's body went stiff. Panic started to creep into his chest. This was a disaster. He couldn't access his salary account. He couldn't use his credit cards. Jason, the caterer just called me. They said the payment is still being rejected. How embarrassing, Jessica yelled. Her face was now scrunched up. Calm down, honey, calm down. Jason was panicking. He remembered he still had an emergency account at another bank, one he rarely used and wasn't linked to any credit facilities. The balance wasn't much, but there were probably a few $1,000s left. With trembling hands, he tried to pay the catering deposit from that account. Success. Jason sighed in relief. For a moment, he had saved face in front of Jessica. See, it was a network problem, Jason said with a forced smile. It's all sorted now. The catering will be here at 7 p.m. Jessica cheered up again. Great. Now I need to get ready to go to the salon. After Jessica left, Jason's smile instantly vanished. His face was pale. Something was very wrong. Why was his main account blocked? Did it have something to do with Caroline? Impossible. That stupid woman couldn't do something like this. He promised himself he would call the bank first thing tomorrow morning and give them a piece of his mind. He would demand compensation for this humiliation, no doubt. As he was pacing the room, suppressing his anxiety, the doorbell rang. Jason opened the door. A uniformed courier stood before him, holding a large manila folder. Mr. Jason, yes, that's me. Certified mail. Please sign here. Jason signed the receipt, closed the door, and examined the folder. The sender was a very expensive-sounding law firm, Sterling & Croft, LLP. Jason thought it must be the court approval documents related to his divorce filing. He opened it eagerly, but the contents were not from the family court. It was a legal notice. A notice of default. His eyes quickly scanned the harsh formal sentences. Dear Sir, on behalf of our client, CH Holdings, we are notifying you that you have incurred a breach of contract on your business line of credit. The full principal amount of your loan, $4 million, is now due. We are giving you a period of 3 days to settle the entire debt. Failure to do so will result in our immediate foreclosure on your assets, namely, 1 housing unit at 12 Willow Creek Lane and 1 luxury sports car. The glass Jason was holding slipped from his hand and shattered on the luxurious marble floor. Sweat poured down his face. 3 days. $4 million. The house foreclosed. No. Impossible. He whispered, trembling. I paid the installment last week. What bridge, and what is CH Holdings? His victory celebration had suddenly turned into the beginning of a nightmare. That night, amidst the music and laughter with his friends and Jessica, Jason could only manage a fake smile. His mind was in turmoil. He felt an invisible trap slowly tightening around his neck. Jason couldn't sleep all night. Beside him, Jessica slept soundly, exhausted from their little party. But in Jason's mind, the words from the legal notice spun like a broken record. $4 million. 3 days. Foreclosure, CH Holdings. As soon as the sun rose, Jason jumped out of bed. His body ached, and his eyes were bloodshot. He didn't shower, just splashed water on his face and threw on some clothes. He no longer cared about his appearance. At 8 a.m., as soon as the bank opened, Jason was already speeding his car toward the branch of his primary bank, where he was a VIP client. He had to clear up this mess. It had to be an administrative error by the bank. It had to be. At 8 a.m. sharp, just as the bank opened, Jason stormed in. He bypassed the line for regular customers and went straight to the VIP services desk. I'm Jason. I want to see the branch manager now, he said loudly, slamming his VIP card on the counter. The startled service employee immediately attended to him. Jason was shown to a special room to wait. 5 minutes later, a neat client relations manager met with him. It was not the branch manager. Good morning, Mr. Jason, how can I help you? Let me check your account. Don't beat around the bush, Jason interrupted sharply. Explain to me why all my credit cards are blocked, why my salary account is frozen, and why I received an absurd notice of default. The manager calmly looked at his computer screen. I apologize for the inconvenience, Mr. Jason, let me check. Interesting. What's interesting? Jason yelled. The manager looked up. We were not the ones who blocked your accounts and credit cards, sir. It's just that your balance is indeed zero, and your credit card limit is completely maxed out. Impossible, Jason shouted. My salary is thousands of dollars, and my limit is in the hundreds of thousands. I didn't use anything yesterday. Correct, sir. But our system records an emergency automatic collection on your business line of credit last night at 12:01 a.m. This collection has absorbed the entire balance of your salary account and simultaneously maxed out all remaining limits on all your credit cards. Jason turned pale. An emergency collection? By whose order? The manager looked at the screen again. Not by our order, sir. It's an order from the new owner of your line of credit. New owner, according to our records, the $4 million business loan you had with our bank was sold 6 months ago to a private equity firm called CH Holdings. We only act as managing agency for the monthly installment payments. Jason's heart sank. CH Holdings. Why would they do this? I've never missed a payment. The manager shook his head. That's beyond our scope, sir. According to the notification we received from CH Holdings last night, you have been declared in breach of contract as per the loan sale agreement. When a breach occurs, CH Holdings has the right to forcibly withdraw funds from your accounts as an initial late payment penalty. And it seems that's exactly what they've done. Jason felt weak, clutching the edge of the desk. How could I be in breach? We don't know the details, sir. It's surely explained in the legal notice you received. You'll have to speak directly with CH Holdings or their lawyers, the manager said with a flat tone, as if discussing the weather. Jason stumbled out of the bank. The sky seemed to be spinning, and sweat soaked his shirt. He sat in his sports car, the car that would be repossessed in 2 days. His hands trembled violently. CH Holdings. That name again. He took out his phone and searched for CH Holdings online. What came up was a giant corporation. Caroline Holdings, a conglomerate operating in luxury fashion, global skincare, and real estate. Its logo was everywhere. Jason had seen it before but never paid it any mind. Why would such a huge company buy my miserable debt? he muttered in despair. Then he remembered the name of the law firm from the notice. Sterling and Croft, LLP. Mustering what little courage he had left, he called the phone number on the document. Good morning, this is Jason. I received a legal notice on behalf of C.H. Holdings. This must be a mistake. I've never defaulted. The voice on the other end was calm and cold. There is no mistake, Mr. Jason. Our client is acting in accordance with the law. You have violated Clause 11, Section B of the loan agreement you signed. Clause 11, Section B, what's that? If you find it bothersome to read the documents you sign, Mr. Jason, that clause stipulates that you are obligated to maintain family harmony, and not to commit immoral or disgraceful acts that could affect the image of the business loan. Jason fell silent. He felt the blood drain from his face. That's an absurd clause. It has nothing to do with the debt. It has everything to do with it. Mr. Jason, when your loan was sold to our client, all clauses, especially that morality clause, were activated. Our client is a company that highly values family values. Your action of divorcing and kicking out your gravely ill wife, Mrs. Caroline, to live with another woman is a serious violation of Clause 11, Section B. Jason couldn't breathe. How did you know? We have irrefutable evidence, Mr. Jason. Photos, audio recordings, and witnesses. We know you kicked your wife out 2 nights ago. That is what triggered this default claim. Jason's knees felt weak. Caroline. This was all because of Caroline. But how does Caroline know C.H. Holdings? What do they want? Give me time. I'll pay the installments. Jason begged now, shaking with fear. It's too late. Our client is not interested in installments. According to the legal notice, you have, let's see, 2 days and 8 hours left to pay the full $4 million. If not, our repossession team will come to seize your house and car. The call ended. Jason threw his phone against the dashboard. He screamed inside the car, $4 million in 2 days. It was impossible. His salary was frozen. His only assets were this house and this car, which turned out not to be his. He tried to clearly. Caroline. This is Caroline's doing. But how did Caroline work at C.H. Holdings as a janitor and complain to her boss? Impossible. It's illogical. He tried to find out who owned C.H. Holdings. He opened a business news portal. The owner of C.H. Holdings was a mysterious figure. The company was run by a CEO named Director Patricia Evans. Patricia. Jason frowned. The name sounded familiar. Suddenly, he remembered. Years ago, Caroline had mentioned an Aunt Patricia, a friend from her church group who was an amazing person. Jason had always mocked her. Just a bunch of neighborhood ladies, he said. Could it be, Caroline's group friend is the CEO of C.H. Holdings? Jason's head throbbed. This was all too complicated. He had to find Caroline. He had to beg Caroline. He had to ask Caroline to withdraw her complaint to Director Patricia. Yes, that was the only way. He immediately started the car. He needed to know where Caroline was now. He had to go to Caroline's parents' poorhouse. He had to go now. As he was pulling out of the bank's parking lot, his phone rang. It was Jessica. Jason ignored it. Jessica kept calling. Irritated, Jason answered. What? Where are you, honey? Why are you shouting? Come quick. The credit card you gave me this morning was also declined at the salon. I'm so embarrassed. Do you even have any money? Jason slammed the steering wheel. More trouble. I have an emergency. You pay with your money first. What? My money? No way. Transfer me money now. I told you I have an emergency. Jason hung up abruptly. At the salon, Jessica stared at her phone, stunned. It was the first time Jason had yelled at her. She began to feel that something was wrong. The rich man she boasted about suddenly had problems with all his cards. Suspicion began to grow in her mind. Jason no longer cared about Jessica. He floored the accelerator of his sports car. He had to find Caroline. He would have to kneel at Caroline's feet if necessary. He didn't know that the Caroline he was looking for was recovering from her illness, sitting in her office chair on the top floor of the CH Holdings building, monitoring Jason's every panicked move through her legal team's reports. Jason could not escape. The second day was hell. His trip to Caroline's parents' house ended in vain. Caroline's parents' house was small and modest, as he expected, but Caroline's parents, though they looked poor, looked at him with a mixture of hatred and pity. Caroline wasn't there. They didn't know where their daughter was. You kicked my daughter out when she was sick, didn't you? Caroline's father asked, his voice trembling with suppressed anger. And now you come looking for her. Get out of here. Don't ever set foot in this house again. Jason returned to the city empty-handed. The little money he had left in his emergency account was spent on gas for the round trip. That night, he and Jessica had a huge fight. Jessica wanted to know what was going on. On the brink, Jason finally confessed. He said he had an administrative problem, and his accounts were temporarily frozen. Jessica wasn't stupid. She saw the legal notice on the table. 3 days. $4 million. Foreclosure. You're broke, Jason. Jessica screamed hysterically. It's temporary. I'll fix it. This is all Caroline's fault, Jason yelled in frustration. I don't care whose fault it is. I don't want to live with a poor man. That night, they slept in the cold, luxurious bed with their backs to each other. Jason couldn't sleep a wink. The countdown in his head kept ticking. Tomorrow was the third day. The morning of the third day was the most terrifying of Jason's life. The sun rose, but it felt like the end of the world. 上午9点. As he and Jessica were having breakfast in awkward silence, the doorbell rang. Jason and Jessica looked at each other. Their faces were pale. Jason shook his head. Don't open it. Pretend we're not here. The bell rang again, this time more insistently, accompanied by loud knocks on the door. Mr. Jason, we know you're inside. We are the enforcement team from Sterling and Croft LLP. Jason's heart stopped. Jessica started to cry in fear. What are we going to do, Jason? What are we going to do? Jessica sobbed. A terrified Jason ran towards the back door. He thought of escaping through the garden, but when he opened the kitchen door, 2 burly security guards were already standing there. Please remain inside, sir, they said firmly. Jason was surrounded. He returned to the living room. When the legal team managed to open the door with the help of the locksmith they had brought, a man in an impeccable suit entered, holding a folder. Behind him, several court officers carried signature notice stickers. Mr. 599 Temple. Several court officers. Jason, your time is up. Exactly 3 days, the lawyer said in a cold voice. By court order, we will now begin the foreclosure procedure on this house and all assets within it to settle the outstanding debt to our client, C.H. Holdings. No, please give me time. Jason knelt. His arrogance vanished in an instant. I'll pay, I promise. Just give me 1 more week. The lawyer shook his head. You were given more than enough time. Our team will begin their work now. You may only take the personal items you are wearing. You have 15 minutes to voluntarily vacate this property. 15 minutes. Jessica shrieked. At that moment, reality hit Jessica. She looked at Jason, who was kneeling on the floor, crying like a child. The man she thought was a king, was now nothing but a beggar. Jessica's face hardened. She wasn't going to sink with him. Without a word, Jessica ran to her room. A bewildered Jason yelled, Jessica, where are you going? Help me. The court officers began to move in. They didn't care about the drama. They started slapping C.H. Holdings seizure stickers on the flat-screen TV, the luxury sofa, the expensive paintings. Outside, the sound of a tow truck coming to take Jason's sports car could be heard. 5 minutes later, Jessica came down. She was no longer crying. She was dragging 2 large suitcases she had packed at some point. She ignored Jason, who was staring at her in shock, and headed straight for the front door. Jessica, are you leaving me? Jason cried, his voice breaking. Jessica stopped and turned. Her face was full of hatred. Leaving you, of course. I don't want to live with a broke loser like you. I thought you were a king, but you were just a clown. Enjoy your ruin alone, Jason. I've called a cab. Goodbye. Jessica walked out, dragging her suitcases, past the enforcement officers, without a backward glance. Jason was frozen, betrayed and abandoned, exactly what he had done to Caroline 3 days ago. The difference was, Caroline was kicked out when she was sick, and Jessica abandoned him at the peak of his ruin. Time's up, Mr. Jason, a security guard said, grabbing Jason's arm. Jason was dragged out of his own house. He was thrown onto the hot sidewalk. He was still in his pajamas. He watched his prized sports car being towed out of the garage. He watched the door to his house being chained and sealed. Everything was gone, in 3 days. Jason collapsed helplessly on the sidewalk. Passers-by stared at him strangely. The man who had been so arrogant was now a spectacle. He was alone, with no money, no house, no one. In his extreme panic, in his unspeakable humiliation, his brain could only think of one name. The source of all this, Caroline. He checked his pockets. His old phone was still there. He didn't know who to call anymore. He wanted to curse Caroline. He had to beg Caroline. He didn't know. He just needed to vent. With trembling hands, he found Caroline, my wife, in his contacts. He pressed the call button. He didn't expect her to answer. Maybe the number had changed or the phone was off. But it rang once, twice, and on the third ring, it connected. Hello, the voice was Caroline's, but it wasn't a weak, sick voice. It was the calm, clear and cold voice of a woman. Jason, who was about to get angry, suddenly felt very small. He cried. His sobs just erupted. It was the cry of a loser. Caroline, he cried hysterically. Caroline, help me please. Caroline, I don't know what happened. They took our house, they took the car, they kicked me out, I'm on the street. Caroline, why did this happen? On the 40th floor of the CH Holdings building, inside a VVIP treatment suite, now converted into a temporary luxury office, Caroline said calmly. She was no longer bedridden, she was healthy, energetic, and very dignified. An emerald satin scarf framed her face, which now looked resolute. In front of her, Director Evans and several department heads were in a meeting. The old phone that Caroline had asked Director Evans to bring from the house vibrated on the table. The name Jason flashed on the screen. The meeting paused. All eyes turned to Caroline. Caroline raised a hand, asking everyone to be quiet. She looked at Director Evans and smiled slightly. She pressed the speakerphone button so everyone in the room could hear. Jason's hysterical crying immediately filled the room. Caroline, help me please. Caroline, I don't know what happened. They took our house, they took the car, they kicked me out. I'm on the street. Caroline, why did this happen? Caroline waited for Jason to finish sobbing. She motioned for the others to remain silent. The silence in the room was a stark contrast to Jason's panicked voice on the phone. After Jason had sobbed himself out, Caroline brought her lips to the microphone. She replied in a calm, strong voice, a voice Jason had never heard before. Excuse me, who is this? There was silence on the other end. Jason's sobbing suddenly stopped. What? It's me, Caroline. Jason, your husband. Oh, Mr. Jason, Caroline said in an indifferent tone, as if speaking to a stranger. I think there's a misunderstanding. First, you are no longer my husband. My divorce papers were filed this morning. Second, our house. 3 days ago you made it very clear that it was your house, didn't you? Jason gasped. His throat was dry. This voice was Caroline's voice, but not his Caroline. Not the weak woman he could trample on. This voice was full of authority. Caroline, where are you? He whispered in terror. What have you done? Your voice. You're healthy. I'm in the middle of an important meeting right now, Caroline replied. She leaned back in her chair, looking at the cityscape through the huge glass window behind her. We're discussing business expansion into the Middle East, while Wander's Jews were window behind her. Something you wouldn't understand. Business, you know. Business. Jason was confused. Caroline, don't talk nonsense. Help me, he pleaded again. I know this is your doing. It must be your group friend, Director Patricia, right? You complained to her. Please, Caroline, tell her to stop all this. I'll do anything. I'll come back to you. I'll divorce Jessica. I promise. A cold, cynical laugh came through the speakerphone. It was Caroline's laugh. Come back to you? Do you think I'd pick up the trash I've thrown out? And Jessica, you're too late, Jason. She left you an hour ago, right when the repossession team arrived. My legal team just informed me. Jason felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over his head. Caroline knew. She knew everything. She was watching everything. Who are you? Jason whispered in pure terror. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end now. Who the hell are you, Caroline? Caroline smiled. Do you really want to know, Jason? For all the years you lived with me, you insulted me, called me a sick, broke woman, who just played on her phone. You never once asked what I was actually doing on my phone. What do you mean? Caroline signaled to Director Evans. Director Evans took over. Hello, Mr. Jason, you are speaking with the board of directors of Caroline Holdings. Jason recognized the calm voice from the legal notice call. That director, why do you have Caroline's phone? What's your relationship with my wife? Caroline took the phone back. She's not my friend, Jason. She's my right hand, the CEO who runs the company for me. Silence. Jason struggled to process this information. You asked who I am, Caroline continued. She walked over to the window, looking down at the street below, where Jason might be sitting like a beggar. You called the number of your poor wife whom you abandoned. But allow me to introduce myself officially. Caroline's voice now resonated with full authority. Hello, Jason, you're speaking to Caroline, the sole owner, founder, and chairwoman of Caroline Holdings, the company with a monthly net profit of $1.5 million that just repossessed all of its assets from you. The phone slipped from Jason's hands. It clattered onto the sidewalk. Jason himself was frozen, his eyes wide with terror, staring at the hot asphalt. He stopped breathing. His world had not just been shattered, it had ceased to exist. Jason slumped onto the grimy sidewalk, petrified. His phone lay beside him, the screen cracked, but the call was still connected. He could hear Caroline's calm breathing on the other end, a stark contrast to the frantic pounding of his own heart. No, impossible, Jason whispered, his voice breaking in denial. This has to be a nightmare. Caroline, you're lying, right? This is all a lie. Caroline's voice came back, cold and impassive. I don't have time for lies, Jason. I'm a busy woman. But since today is the day of your ruin, I'll grant you a little of my time. There was a moment of silence. Jason was still dazed, staring at the pavement beneath him. Lift your head, Jason, Caroline commanded. Look across the street, a little to your left. Slowly, like a broken robot, Jason raised his head, his swollen eyes squinted in the midday sunday. Across the busy avenue, a blue-glass skyscraper towered arrogantly. At its peak, 3 giant letters gleamed in the sun. CH, that building, Jason whispered, his throat dry. Yes, Caroline Holdings, Caroline replied. I'm on the 40th floor, I can see you clearly from my window. You look so pathetic, sitting there on the sidewalk. The security guards in this area will chase you away soon. Jason swallowed hard, an icy terror ran down his spine. Caroline was watching him. Come to the lobby, Caroline continued. I want to see you. I want to see with my own eyes the face of an arrogant man crumble. The call disconnected. Jason sat stunned for a full minute. His body was paralyzed, he had nothing left. The house was gone, the car was gone, Jessica was gone, and now even his pride was about to be obliterated. He had no choice. Where else could he go? A morbid curiosity, mixed with a foolish hope that he could still plead, made him get to his feet. With faltering steps, he stood up. The pajamas he wore were now filthy with street dust. He walked like a zombie, toward the massive glass doors of the CH building, ignoring the blaring car horns that deafened him. The lobby of the building was another world. The floor was polished, imported marble, an artificial waterfall cascaded down one wall. Dozens of impeccably dressed employees bustled about. The cold air from the air conditioning hit his sweaty body, making him shiver. Jason stood in the middle of all this opulence, unsure what to do. He was like a stain on a white canvas. A beautiful receptionist looked at him with a mixture of disgust and suspicion. Excuse me, sir, can I help you? The receptionist asked, her voice clearly hostile. Jason stammered. I'm here to see Caroline. MRS. Caroline. The receptionist raised an eyebrow. MRS. Caroline, you mean our chairwoman, do you have an appointment? No, but, she asked me to come here. Tell her it's Jason. I'm sorry, sir. You can't enter without an appointment. The receptionist already had her phone in hand, clearly about to call security. Let him pass. A firm voice interrupted the receptionist. Jason turned. Director Patricia Evans stood there, flanked by two burly security guards. Director Evans's face was calm, but her eyes looked at Jason with disdain. So, you're Jason. Jason recognized the woman Caroline's group friend, Director Patricia. Allow me to correct you, Director Evans said coolly. I am not her group friend, I am her CEO. Now follow me. Chairwoman Caroline is waiting for you. Jason was led through the lobby, offering no resistance. All eyes were on him now, a disheveled man in dirty pajamas, walking flanked by the CEO and security guards. Murmurs began to spread. Jason wanted to cover his face, but he had no pride left. They didn't take him to the main elevator. Director Evans stopped him in the VIP waiting area in the center of the lobby. Wait here. Chairwoman Caroline will be down. Jason stood stiffly. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He felt like a defendant awaiting a death sentence. Every second felt like an hour. Suddenly, a soft chime was heard from the private elevator. At the end of the lobby. Immediately, all activity in the lobby ceased. The employees who were busy moments ago, the receptionist, even the security guards at the front door, all stopped what they were doing. They stood up straight, facing the elevator, some gave a slight bow. The doors of the VIP elevator opened. Two personal bodyguards in black suits stepped out first and stood firmly on either side of the door. And then, Caroline walked out. Jason gasped. He could have died on the spot. This woman was Caroline, but not the Caroline he knew. The woman walking towards him was a queen. She wore a premium quality, sapphire blue pantsuit that fit her body perfectly. A matching silk scarf framed her sharp face in a chic, modern style. Her face, which used to look pale, was now fresh, adorned with subtle but high-end makeup that accentuated her sharp eyes. She walked with confidence, her high heels clicking quietly but firmly on the marble floor. An aura of power and wealth emanated from her every move. The employees she passed greeted her with respect. Good afternoon, Chairwoman. Jason trembled. Chairwoman. Director Evans immediately approached Caroline and gave a slight bow. Chairwoman, he is waiting. Caroline nodded. Her gaze never left Jason. She walked slowly, each step seemingly trampling on the remnants of Jason's pride. She stopped exactly 3 feet from the now shaking man. Caroline scanned Jason from head to toe, from his messy hair to his pajamas and the hotel slippers he wore. The look was cold, analytical, and merciless. Caroline. Jason could barely manage a whisper. Yes, Jason. It's me, Caroline said, her voice calm and clear, echoing in the silent lobby. The sick, broke woman you abandoned 3 days ago. Jason couldn't take it anymore. All his strength vanished, his knees buckled. Uncontrollably, he collapsed onto the cold marble floor. He knelt at Caroline's feet and cried his heart out. Caroline. I'm sorry. Please, Caroline. I was wrong. I was blind. I have sinned against you. Jason tried to grab the hem of Caroline's jacket, but his hands were shaking too much. Everyone in the lobby was stunned. The scene was too shocking. A man crying hysterically at the feet of their chairwoman. Caroline's two bodyguards stepped forward to pull Jason away, but Caroline raised a hand, silently signaling them to stop. She wanted Jason to feel this humiliation completely. Forgive me, Caroline. Give me back our house. Please, I'll divorce Jessica. I'll be your husband again. I'll then. Caroline looked at him blankly. No pity, no anger. Just an icy emptiness. She leaned down slightly, not to help Jason up, but to whisper. Get up, she ordered, her voice low but full of authority. Jason, with what little strength he had, shakily stood up. His face was soaked with tears and sweat. Caroline looked him straight in the eye. You want to beg? She asked, her voice not loud enough for the people around to hear. Too bad, Jason. My company doesn't hire beggars. After saying that, Caroline took a silk handkerchief from her purse. Jason had a moment of hope that Caroline would wipe his tears, but Caroline used the handkerchief to wipe an imaginary speck of dust from her jacket sleeve, as if she had just touched something dirty. My company, Caroline said clearly, does not hire beggars. After uttering that sentence, Caroline turned around elegantly. She walked back to the VIP elevator. Director Evans, take care of him, she said without looking back. Give him one last lesson. Understood, Chairwoman. The elevator doors closed. Caroline disappeared from his sight. Jason was left standing there, shattered. The public humiliation he had just received from the woman he considered trash was 1,000 times more painful than losing his house and car. Director Evans approached him. Come, Mr. Jason. Let's finish this. There's something Chairwoman Caroline wants you to see. What more are you going to take from me? Jason cried in despair. Not take, Director Evans said, but make you understand how foolish you have been all this time. Jason was dragged by 2 security guards, this time to a luxurious meeting room on the mezzanine floor. Jason was thrown into a chair inside the cold meeting room. The large glass window of the room overlooked the lobby, allowing him to see and be seen. In front of him, Director Evans sat calmly, accompanied by 2 men in impeccable suits, who Jason was sure were lawyers. Jason could only lower his head and stare at the marble floor. He had lost. He had nothing left. Mr. Jason, Director Evans began, her voice calm, like a teacher about to give a lesson to a foolish student. You're still confused about how the wife you considered useless, poor, and sickly, Mrs. Caroline, could be the owner of all this. Jason said nothing. He had no strength to answer. Director Evans pressed a button on the table. A large projector screen descended from the ceiling, and the lights in the room dimmed slightly. The screen lit up, showing a large title, Caroline Holdings Business and Financial Report, CH. Alright, let's begin the lesson, Mr. Jason. Let's go back 5 years, Director Evans said. Charts, profit and loss statements, financial balances, figures and the billions that made. Jason's eyes began to appear. 5 years ago, you had just been fired from your first job. You were depressed, angry, and blamed the whole world. While you were busy looking for a new job and lamenting your fate, your wife, whom you thought was just a housewife, began working in the kitchen. Jason lifted his head slightly. Not cooking for you, Director Evans continued, as if she could read his mind. She was formulating skincare products with herbal recipes from her family heritage. When you mocked her for being glued to her phone late at night, she was actually responding to hundreds of orders from her first customers. When you finally got a new job and started becoming arrogant, she was secretly renting an office for a small production space. The screen changed. Photos appeared, a picture of a narrow office, a picture of a larger warehouse, and a picture of a very spacious modern factory. And photos of CH branches in New York, Paris, Shanghai, and Tokyo. CH Holdings, Mr. Jason. It stands for Caroline Holdings. Caroline is your wife's name. This company, this building, everything you see is hers. 100%. Jason trembled violently. But how? The funds? The money? Oh, the money. Director Evans smiled cynically. You always underestimated her because she never asked for much, did you? You were proud that you could give her a $3,000 monthly allowance for expenses, which you often cut when you were angry. You called her poor. Director Evans pressed a button again. The screen changed. A large number appeared clearly, $1,500,000. $1.5 million. Director Evans emphasized each word. This is Mrs. Caroline's personal monthly net income, which went into an account in her own name that you knew nothing about. An income far greater than your company director's salary. The woman you insulted and kicked out for being poor. Jason felt nauseous. The world seemed to be spinning. $1.5 million a month. And your debt, Director Evans continued, the $4 million loan you used to buy that house and luxury car. You were so arrogant when the bank approved it, weren't you, a year ago, when you were about to go bankrupt from mismanaging your side businesses, your loan went into default. The bank was about to seize your assets. But Mrs. Caroline found out. Through me, C.H. Holdings bought your entire debt from the bank. We paid it off. Jason's eyes widened. So that house and car, have already been the property of C.H. Holdings for the past year, Mr. Jason. MRS. Caroline saved your face, allowed you to continue living there, allowed you to continue boasting about your supposed success. She was still trying to respect you as her husband. She hoped you would change. Jason's tears welled up again. Not tears of remorse, but tears for his infinite stupidity. He had kicked out his savior. She knew I was cheating on her, Jason whispered in terror. Of course she knew, Director Evans said. She knew everything. One of the lawyers spoke up now. And now, Mr. Jason, let's see the evidence. The screen changed again. This time it wasn't financial charts. It was video recordings. Jason saw his own living room. He saw himself tenderly embracing Jessica on the sofa. The date in the bottom right corner of the video showed it was 6 months ago, when Caroline had to go to her group meeting. The video changed his bedroom. Jason saw Jessica trying on Caroline's clothes and scarves, laughing and throwing them on the floor, and Jason was there, laughing with her. And the last video, the most damning one. 3 days ago, in the same bedroom. Jason saw himself standing arrogantly in front of the bed. He saw Caroline lying weakly. He heard his own voice, full of hatred, echoing in that meeting room. Listen up, you sick, broke woman, I've already filed the divorce papers. Get out of this house tomorrow morning. Stop, Jason screamed, covering his face with both hands. Stop it, please, stop it. The screen went black, the room was silent again. Hidden cameras, the lawyer said calmly. Installed a year ago by Mrs. Caroline, when she began to suspect you had another woman, Jason was broken, the evidence was irrefutable, he couldn't deny it. Caroline, is she going to put me in jail? Jason asked in despair. Initially, that was the plan, Director Evans said. We had prepared charges for verbal domestic abuse, abandonment, and adultery, enough to have you rot in jail for a few years. Jason trembled with fear. But, Director Evans continued, MRS. Caroline changed her mind. Prison is too comfortable for you, she wants you to feel something worse than prison. A lifetime of humiliation. Director Evans pushed a thin folder in front of Jason. This is Mrs. Caroline's official divorce petition. In it, there's also a claim for compensation for emotional distress. Jason opened it with trembling hands. MRS. Caroline is not asking for a division of assets. She doesn't want to take your dirty money. She has only taken back the house and car that are hers. But you still have to pay for your actions. Jason's eyes widened in terror as he saw the figure in the claim, $400,000. $40 万, he screamed. I don't have any money, you've taken everything. Of course you don't, Director Evans smiled coldly. But you still have your job, right? Oh, I almost forgot, Director Evans' smile widened. Breaking news, Mr. Jason. An hour ago, CH Holdings just completed the acquisition of 70% of the shares of the company you work for. And as the new majority shareholder, Chairwoman Caroline's first order of business is a management reorganization. Your termination letter has been signed. You are officially fired. This was the final nail in Jason's coffin. He had lost everything, house, car, wife, savings, and now his job, the source of his pride. You're devils, Jason cried, his voice breaking. We're just serving justice, Director Evans said. And about that $400,000 debt, Mrs. Caroline is very kind. Until she knows you can never pay it. So she's giving you an option. Director Evans slid another sheet of paper in front of Jason. Sign this statement. Admit to all your actions, your adultery, your verbal domestic abuse, and your abandonment. If you admit you were wrong, the debt will be forgiven. Jason looked at the confession. It was the last shred of pride he had left. What do you need this for? Just collateral, the lawyer said. So you don't go around making up false stories. Jason had no choice. Fired, bankrupt, and homeless. With trembling hands, he picked up the pen they offered. He signed the document confessing his sins. It's over, Director Evans said, quickly collecting the papers. Just then, the meeting room door opened. Caroline entered again. She stood in front of Jason, who was now slumped over, his head down. You divorced me, Jason, Caroline asked quietly. You threw those divorce papers in my face when I was sick. Caroline took out the same folder Jason had thrown on her bed. Director Evans had kept it. In front of Jason's eyes, Caroline slowly tore up the divorce petition Jason had filed. The torn pieces of paper fell onto Jason's lap. I am the one divorcing you, Caroline said coldly, and I'm making sure you don't get a single cent. She looked at Jason one last time. Now, get out of my building. The two security guards who had accompanied Director Evans immediately entered. Take out this trash, Director Evans ordered. Jason didn't resist. He was already numb. He was dragged out, his arms held firmly. He was dragged through the crowded lobby. The employees looked at him with a mixture of pity and disgust. The automatic glass doors opened, and Jason was thrown back onto the hot sidewalk. He landed with no money, no job, no house, only a dirty pair of pajamas. Ironically, a confession of his sins that freed him from a debt. His ruin was now truly complete. For the second time that day, Jason was thrown onto the hot asphalt. The glass doors of the CH building closed behind him, separating him from the luxurious world he had just discovered belonged to Caroline. He coughed, the street dust entering his throat. His face was streaked with tears, sweat, and now dirt. For a moment, he didn't move, his body was paralyzed. His brain could no longer process the ruin that had happened so perfectly and swiftly. Fired, bankrupt, abandoned by his mistress, and publicly humiliated by the wife he considered trash, the confession of sins he had signed felt like a death sentence. Passers-by stared at him strangely, a man in dirty pajamas crying in front of a luxury building's lobby. A security guard from the building now stood at the door, watching him with a sharp gaze, making sure he didn't try to re-enter. Jason had to leave, he couldn't just sit there forever. With what little strength he had, he stood up, his knees trembled, he started walking aimlessly. Where to go? He had no home. He checked his empty pockets. His broken phone had been left in the lobby when he was dragged out. He now truly had nothing but the clothes on his back. His stomach growled, he was hungry. The last time he ate was the tense breakfast with Jessica hours ago. The sun was beginning to set, the air was hot and suffocating. He remembered his friends, his party friends, he could borrow some money from them. He walked several miles to the cafe, where they used to hang out. With a face full of humiliation, he entered. Several of his friends were there. Jason, my God, what happened to you? One of them asked, shocked by his appearance. Jason told his story, a distorted version. She set me up, man. My accounts are frozen, lend me some cash. The shocked friend's face turned cold. Sorry, Jay. The news just spread on the group chat. You got fired from your company, right? And CH Holdings seized your assets. Jason was stunned. How do you guys know? Everyone knows. You messed with Caroline Holdings. You're crazy. Sorry, Jay, I can't help you. I don't want to get into trouble with CH. He turned and left in a hurry. The other friends pretended not to see him. Jason was left standing alone in the middle of the cafe. The waiter subtly asked him to leave. He was back on the street, humiliated. He was now a pariah. No one dared to touch him for fear of Caroline's shadow. Night fell. Jason was starving. He curled up to sleep in front of a clothes shop, using his arms as a pillow, shivering from the cold. The buzz of mosquitoes and the smell of the sewers accompanied his sleep. This was his instant karma. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Jessica was panicking. She had managed to escape Jason's house with 2 suitcases full of designer clothes and bags. She temporarily rented a cheap room in a motel. She contacted other wealthy men on her contact list. She had to quickly find a replacement for Jason. "Hello, Mr. Kim, it's Jessica. Are you busy? Let's have dinner," she said in a flirtatious voice over the phone. "Jessica? Who's Jessica?" the man replied. "Oh, come on, it's Jessica. We met at the party." "Oh, Jessica. The girlfriend of that broke Jason." "Right." The man's voice changed instantly. "Sorry, I'm busy right now, don't call again." The call ended. Jessica was stunned. She tried calling another man. The response was the same. The news of Jason's ruin had spread like wildfire, and her name had been dragged along with it. She was the woman who was with the man when he fell. She was the evicted mistress. Her reputation in high society and among wealthy men was shattered. No one wanted to come near her. Unfortunately, her bad luck didn't end there. As she was lamenting her fate in the motel room, there was a knock on the door. 2 men in impeccable suits stood there. "Miss Jessica, we are from Sterling and Croft LLP. A court summons." Jessica's heart stopped. She received the summons with trembling hands. Caroline had sued her. The charges were adultery, defamation, and destruction of private property. Caroline was demanding compensation of $1 million. $1 million, she screamed hysterically. She didn't have that kind of money. All her bags and clothes were given to her by Jason. The following days were a nightmare for the 2 villains. Jessica ran out of money. She couldn't afford a lawyer. She started selling her designer bags one by one, at bargain prices to survive and pay for the motel room. Jason, after 3 days of hunger and sleeping on the street, finally swallowed his pride. He had to eat. He walked to the central market where the day laborers worked. His once handsome face was now grimy. A messy, unkempt beard had grown. "Sir, need any help?" he asked the foreman of the laborers. The foreman looked him up and down. "You look soft. Can you lift sacks of rice?" "I'm strong, sir." "I need to eat," Jason pleaded, his voice breaking. "Move those sacks of rice from there to the truck." "I'll pay you $1.50 per sack," the foreman said. And so began Jason's new life. The man who once wore impeccable shirts and drove a sports car now sweated under the scorching sun, hauling sacks of rice that weighed dozens of pounds. His once toned and athletic body was now gaunt. His skin was sunburned, dark, and dirty. His muscles bulged not from gym workouts, but from forced labor. His back ached permanently, and his hands were calloused and often wounded. He had long forgotten the smell of clean shirts or expensive cologne. He only knew the smell of sweat, market garbage, and cheap cigarettes. What happened to Jessica? Jason no longer cared. The last news he heard from his fellow laborers was that Jessica, after losing the lawsuit against Caroline spectacularly, had fallen into massive debt. To survive, she became a waitress at a city bar. Rumor had it that she was caught in a few weeks ago. Her fate was far worse than mere poverty. She was destroyed. Jason felt no pity, no anything. His heart was already dead. He worked like a machine. Lift a sack, get paid, buy rice, and sleep. That was the only cycle of his life. That afternoon, after 12 hours of non-stop work, Jason received his day's wage. $55 in crumpled bills. He walked out of the market, dragging his aching legs. He stopped at his usual food stall, a plate of rice with a side dish, to go. With the food bag in hand, he walked to a large intersection. He sat on the dirty sidewalk, leaning against a traffic light pole. He opened the food bag for his only meal of the day. Across the street, a giant video screen on the wall of a tall building suddenly lit up. It was showing a live broadcast of a business news program. Jason stopped bringing the rice to his mouth. His plastic spoon paused in mid-air. On that giant screen was Caroline's face. It was a live broadcast of CH's global launch event from that morning. Caroline's very clean, calm and dignified face filled the screen tens of feet high. A foreign journalist asked a question in English, which was translated on the screen. "Chairwoman Caroline, You are currently one of the wealthiest and most influential women in America. What is the secret to your success? Jason held his breath. He saw Caroline smile faintly. There is no secret, Caroline replied, her voice heard clearly across the intersection. I just never stopped working. I never stopped believing in my abilities, even when the person closest to me underestimated me and called me useless. The food bag slipped from Jason's hands. The rice and side dish scattered on the dirty sidewalk, but Jason didn't care. His eyes were glued to the screen. Up there in the sky, the woman he had called sick and broke was being interviewed as a global business queen. And down here, on the street asphalt, the man who had called himself a king was sitting like a beggar, looking at the remains of his dinner mixed with dust. Jason lowered his head deeply. He didn't cry. He just laughed, a dry, desperate laugh. He had lost. Not just his fortune, not just his position, he had lost everything. The woman he had abandoned now had the world, and he had nothing, not even the pride to pick up the rice he had dropped. Karma had served its sentence.